And here we are once again, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Joining us now, the author of Trumponomics, Stephen Moore. Mr. Moore, good to have you back here in Idaho.
Hi, Kevin. Great to be with you.
We're still waiting at ski season, so hopefully you'll get to Sun Valley.
I'm ready to go. How's the ski up there in Sun Valley?
Looking very good. Snow's good, pristine, ready for you.
All right. Well, I'm ready to come. And by the way, the big news last night on the economy, the press doesn't really cover this, is it looks right now, Kevin, like the Chinese have blinked a little bit in this stare down on this trade war. They've agreed to buy more American autos and reduce. Did you know they had a 40% tariff on our autos? The Chinese, a 40% tariff. We impose 5% tariffs on them. They impose 40% on us. So they're going to do that. It looks like they're agreed to buy more of our soybeans and more of our agricultural products, which is a big deal for the western states, obviously. And then this is a good first step towards getting a deal done. But of course, with China, Kevin, it's always about whether they keep their word. They say they'll do things, but look, these are slippery characters. We're dealing with the old Soviet Union here, and so we got to get this thing resolved in a way that they make these kind of concessions that America needs. And if Trump can pull this off, I mean, my God, the economy is going to soar.
And that should be on the front page of every paper.
It should be. But the media doesn't cover it, Kevin. I mean, it's the most. I look at the New York Times this morning. I look at the Washington Post. There's a tiny little article. They're covering the Russia investigation, Comey, Mueller, all this stuff. But the big issue of our time is this trade dispute between the two big superpowers, China and the United States. Trump is standing toe-to-toe with Beijing. He's promised to slap, very punitive tariffs on them unless they start changing their behavior. By the way, I'm 100% behind him on this. And we're finally getting some real concessions, and the media just yawns as though ho-hum.
Well, Mr. Moore, let's talk a little bit about the media here. They seem to be rooting for a recession.
Yeah. Yep.
And you think to yourself, do they really hate the president and all the good that's come out of your work, Mr. Kudlow's work? People are employed, people are rolling, that they're cheering for people to be out of work.
It is so subversive, isn't it? And yet, what did Nancy Pelosi say the other day? I'm part of the resistance. I'm not going to help Trump get legislation done to create jobs. The last thing Nancy Pelosi wants to do is pass legislation that will create more jobs and better conditions for workers, right? She doesn't want that to happen. She wants a recession. So does Chucky Schumer. And Trump called them out on that and said, look, help me continue to rebuild this American economy and create even more jobs. I mean, Trump has done he gave himself an A+. I think I'll give him maybe an A-, but he's done a great job. I mean, did you know, Kevin, we have 7 million more jobs today than people to fill them?
Which is amazing, even though we have people.
It's amazing.
Right.
We've got the construction numbers were great. The manufacturing numbers are awesome. I spoke to the National Association of Manufacturers conference yesterday, and I went around the room. There were maybe 50 of the major manufacturing firms there. I said, how many would you say his business conditions are really good or great? And almost all of them raised their hand. And I guarantee you, 3 years ago, if you'd asked, only 2 or 3 of them would have raised their hand. So we've had a whole, and it's because of the deregulation, the tax cuts, the energy policy. I mean, you can tell I'm in a good mood today, Kevin. I mean, did you see the news the other day? Again, the media doesn't report this, so you got to get your news from the Kevin Miller radio show. But for the first time in 60 years, last month the U.S. produced more oil and gas than we consumed. We're selling the stuff. We're now no longer importing it,
which is unheard of. And Mr. Moore, if we could go back to you and the president, Mr. Kudlow's thoughts on China and the previous administration and all the other ones that seek to codify China, and they knew they were stealing, they knew they were doing these things, and you guys brought this, hey, let's put America first attitude back into trade. It's paying off, but many people thought that it would be disastrous.
Well, look, I mean, you're exactly right. And I saw the president on, what's today? Today's Thursday, right? I saw him on Tuesday at the Oval Office, and we spent about 40 minutes together. He and I and Art Laffer was there, and we just chatted amicably. But we did talk a little bit about China, and he just said, look, I'm not backing down here. I am not backing down. If the Chinese do not start behaving themselves and start, opening up their markets to American products like we've opened up our markets to theirs, I'm going to wallop them with 25% tariffs, and that will put the hurt to the Chinese economy. I mean, that's the other thing the media is not reporting. China's economy is stalling out right now. Their stock market's down 20%. Their warehouses and factories are full of merchandise they can't sell because of these tariffs. I mean, they think they should just get open, unfettered access to America's $10 trillion consumer market, and yet they don't have to open up their market to us. They can slap us with 40% auto tariffs. It's like, as Trump used to say, they're laughing behind our back. Well, they ain't laughing now. And I think that the president sounded very confident he was going to get a deal in the next 70 days. They've got the deal that was in Buenos Aires he's given them 90 days, and that was as of, a week or two ago, 90 days to come up with a deal and concessions that satisfy his conditions on honoring our intellectual property and not stealing that stuff, and then, reducing their tariffs and other barriers against our products. And I think that's why what happened last night with these concessions on the auto tariffs and on the agriculture tariffs, that's very good news.
Let's talk a little bit about what's it like to go one-on-one with the president. You have this access. All we ever hear about is the bad things in the Chuck and Nancy show, but you know him personally. You've worked with him. You've advised him. What's it like?
I mean, the guy is so charming. He's delightful. He's couldn't be nicer in person. People who've never actually met him. I mean, he's just I hate the word charisma, but he has it. And we had a great conversation. He was in a great mood. He was showing us his golf swing. He had just gotten out of that meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, the one I'm talking about from a couple of days ago. And he was in a great mood. And he always is. He's a very upbeat person. He's so pro-America, and he's so focused like a laser beam on making sure that everything is going well for the country, the workers are doing better. And, he just said Pelosi's going to try to block everything I'm going to do. And, how subversive is that? I mean, the way I like to put it, sometimes I feel like liberals hate Trump more than they love America. They're rooting against American businesses and American workers. And I'll tell you this, Kevin, if this economy 2 years from now is anywhere near as strong as it is today, Trump is going to win a 40-state reelection landslide.
That would be huge. What do you make of the GM announcement? I love how the president responded to it.
You mean the layoffs of at the factories?
Yeah, the 15% reduction of workforce, and President Trump saying, look, we bailed you out, we did this. This is not acceptable.
Well, I'm of two minds on this. I mean, one, I don't like the president telling private companies what to do, right? I mean, what has made our economy great and the richest country in the world is we don't have the government direct, businesses, what they can and can't do, and we allow the entrepreneurs and the people to start the businesses to run their own businesses. So I don't, and by the way, I hate corporate welfare, too. We shouldn't have been giving all this aid to GM and Ford and Chrysler. Well, Ford, I have to say, remember, Ford did not take the money from the government. Chrysler did. And GM did, and then now they're laying off workers. But this is why, you don't want big government and big business ever getting together because it always turns out terrible for the taxpayers and the consumers. But, Trump feels very strongly about this. Now, here's the point, though, Kevin. All the headlines of, GM's going to lay off workers. But as I just said, we have 7 million more jobs than we have workers already. For every factory that's being shut down in the United States, we got 5 or 10 new factories that are being built. So we're not losing blue collar jobs in this country. I mean, look at the numbers, and we've created, just since Trump was elected, 1 million new construction, manufacturing, and mining jobs. So we're not losing those jobs. They're coming back big time.
What do you make of the president trying to get his message out? I mean, again, Mr. Moore, you say that he's in good spirits. We believe you. You've got access. But it just seems like the press seems to, and we've talked about this, just seems to glorify this message of, trying to run him out of office.
He doesn't let that get him down. He knows what he's up against. I mean, look, the American people aren't stupid. Right? People are stupid. They can see how hostile the media is. That's why when he says fake news and they're so offended by that, you're trying to bridge the right of free press. No, they can write whatever they want. We just have the right not to believe them, right, Kevin?
Right.
I mean, if you believe the New York Times, you're pretty stupid because half of them what they write is just a work of fiction. And I think people are sick of it, frankly. I think there's a backlash against the media that just beats them up all of the time. The jobs report came out last Friday. I did a bunch of shows on that. 155,000 jobs, more manufacturing jobs, more construction jobs, higher wages for workers, all these, now was it a sensational report? No, but it was a good, solid report. I mean, you read the media reports, oh my God, we're headed to another recession, the economy's slowing down. It's only slowing down because we were at these towering heights 2 months ago. We were growing twice as fast under Obama. Anytime you go that high, things are going to come down a little bit. But things are looking good. I don't see any recession on the horizon. The only thing I do worry, I would agree with Trump. I think the Fed is way too tight. They've taken the punch bowl away from this party just as it's getting rolling, and we need more dollar liquidity in the economy right now because everybody around the world wants dollars. We're the prize economy. Look what's happening in Germany. Look at what's happening in France. Look at China. All these other countries are slowing down. We're just booming ahead.
Finally, Trumponomics, Stephen Moore's book about his time with the president, his continued time with the president. What do you make about the deficit and the debt?
Well, we're going to have a big showdown in the next week or two on this, probably in the next week. We're getting pretty close to Christmas here. Trump is basically, pissed off at the Congress for not giving him the funding for the wall. He also thinks there's too much extraneous. There's money in there for, food stamps for illegal immigrants and all this stuff. Why are we spending money on that, Kevin? We have an $800 billion deficit and we're spending billions of dollars a year giving Medicaid and food stamps to illegal immigrants who aren't even supposed to be in the country in the first place. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. I think in the end of the day, Trump will probably hold his nose and sign this bill. But next year, when Pelosi takes over the gavel, I think you're going to see a lot of showdowns in the budget. And when I told him in that meeting, if you have to, start vetoing those spending bills, Mr. President, send them back to Congress and tell Nancy Pelosi, come back when you get a serious offer.
Well, you bring up a very good point, and it plays into remembering former President Bush. What they did to him in his last 2 years of his administration is they just, tried to do everything they could. Of course, the Democrats had the House and the Senate to make him look inept.
And that's what cost George H.W. Bush he made a big mistake in making a huge deal with George Mitchell, back in 1990, and that's why before he made that huge deal, he had a 90% approval rating, and then 2 years later, he doesn't even get 40% of the vote. I wrote my column on this because I wanted to warn Donald Trump: don't make bad deals with Nancy Pelosi. If you do, she's the one who's going to come out the winner here.
And finally, the case for Trumponomics for a last-minute Christmas gift, sir?
Say it again?
The case for Trumponomics, why people should get this as a last-minute Christmas present.
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite reason, if you want to annoy one of your liberal friends, buy it for them and put them in their stocking.
Stephen Moore, we always appreciate you. Hopefully we'll see you at Sun Valley.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Take care.
Thank you. All right, our great friend, Stephen Moore. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. And here we go. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to the Miller mailbag here. And this is from Breitbart. And talking about the wall and how many people want the wall and just how important the wall is to people in Donald Trump's America. Is it important? Well, according to a new report from Breitbart, nearly 2 in 3 people that voted for Donald Trump support the government shutdown for a border wall. Now, this is really what it comes down to. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, what are you willing to stand for? What are you willing to do when it comes to principle, when it comes to integrity, when it comes to making a difference?
For $20 billion, $15 billion. I could even do it cheaper if I have to. And it'll be better than anybody's ever seen a wall. Think of that. You're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, and you're talking about a fraction. You'd make it up in a month by having a proper wall. You see what's happening. You see where they're surging, and our great people are able to easily handle it. Without the wall, it gets tougher, but you know what? They still handle it. Illegal immigration is a threat to the well-being of every American community.
There we have it. He's right. It is a threat. And yet we sit back and we think to ourselves, what can the president do when he has the media against him? Well, his people, according to the latest Marist poll, reveal that 65% of supporters of Donald Trump and 65% of the GOP say the president should not compromise on the proposed border wall, even if it means a government shutdown, which will be less than 25% of the government. Now, with all due respect to people that work for the government, because it's very easy to say, oh, the government this, the government that, or people that are dependent on the government, would we miss 25% of the government? Certainly, Chuck and Nancy disagree.
10 votes from Chuck.
Let me say something. Let me just say one thing.
After a tense Oval Office exchange with President Trump over border security, the Washington Post reports House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said at a Democratic caucus meeting, "It's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him, this wall thing." This is not the first time Pelosi had made such a comment.
In my view, it's immoral, expensive, ineffective, and not something that people do between countries. But in any event, it happens to be like a manhood issue for the president.
You know, and again, when we say that Donald Trump should work with these people, they don't want to work with him when you have Nancy Pelosi insulting his manhood. You know, what does that do? You know, people are critical of the president and they say the president's bad, but at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, how is that helping the cause? It's not helping the cause, is it? It's not helping the cause when you think about the wall and what it means. It, again, is a choice between two Americas. The ones where we reward people for coming here illegally, and the other where we sit back and say to ourselves, enough, there are standards. You will come here legally. We will build a wall to safeguard, just like we have doors in our homes to keep the bad people out. And, you know, how many people are with the president? That's really what it comes down to. How many people are willing to shut the government down to build the wall? And really, if the Republicans had stuck with the president, if the Republicans had done what they had promised, A, the Democrats wouldn't have taken over the House, and B, that wall would have been funded. How do we explain with a Republican House and a Republican Senate that the wall wasn't funded? By the way, our friend Jeff the Suit apparently met the Star Police, and we love Jeff the Suit, our great friend, but I wish I had some pull with the people in Star, but I don't. But gotta have the speed limit. So whether you're going through Star or wherever, chances are you've got to obey the speed limit. So we'll get a little back to that. Sorry to get distracted, but think about this. If the Republicans had done their job, the wall would be up already, right? And as our friend Ted, who just emailed me, you know, why are we giving money to the Iranians? You know, why are we giving money to the Iranians? Oh, they're our good friends. $150 billion to the Iranians, but we don't have $5 billion for the wall. Crazy. And people are going after the president for doing the right thing. I love this. And by the way, the media is just so crazy, so out of whack. They are the biggest threat to our great republic. Let's take a listen.
How much time should the client get? And that doesn't even include whatever Bob Mueller comes up with respect to Russia and obstruction of justice and the crimes that were committed there. This is entirely apart from the Russia investigation. Donald Trump is in serious trouble. His lawyers ought to be telling him to negotiate a plea deal. It's time to negotiate a comprehensive plea deal for Donald Trump to include federal and state charges, reduced charges in return for his resignation. That's where this ought to be headed. That's where the Republicans in Congress ought to be driving this, toward a comprehensive plea deal.
Right. They are crazy. So this guy says Trump should resign and then be indicted so he won't be impeached. And you have people believing it. That's why it's so important to get the news and the talk from us in the morning and Sean in the afternoon and Glenn and everything else, so you have the ammunition to combat the silliness. President Obama had the IRS, the NSA, persecute American citizens, and not one thing was done. We don't have anything on President Trump. Nothing. All speculation. Coming up next, we'll discuss Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin. For the second year in a row, Fox News' Sean Hannity is number one in cable news, edging the second place MSNBC Rachel Maddow, while Tucker Carlson came in third. The Ingram angle fourth, and the five grabbed their namesake to round out the top five. Fox News dominated the top 10 with Bret Baier's special report coming in sixth. MSNBC's The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell followed The Story with Martha McCallum, and America's Newsroom sandwiched Chris Hayes to round out the top 10. 15 of the top 35 programs were MSNBC, followed by Fox with 14, and CNN, which showed up for the first time at number 23, had 6. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
And congratulations to our parent company, the Fox News Company, for once again dominating in cable television. Appreciate it. Big ups to Sean Hannity, who you can catch every afternoon right here on KIDO Talk Radio. Must viewing, must listening to Sean right after Dave Ramsey here. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. As we've been talking about, we've got the president looking at shutting down the government. Once again, shutting down the government over the wall. We'll get back to that, but here's something very strange, and maybe because it's food-based, it's got my attention, but apparently Kentucky Fried Chicken wants to warm your home with a log that smells like fried chicken. Now, could you imagine that? Is there anything worse than a log smelling like fried chicken? I mean, fried chicken smells great. Even the thoughts of fried chicken sound great. But to have that smell in your house, you'd be running to the Colonel again and again and again. I mean, think about this as you're listening to this music. How would you feel about the aroma of fried chicken emanating through your home where they're selling this log with 11 herbs and spices from the Colonel's original recipe? So you can go to a Kentucky Fried Chicken, I'm not making this up, and get a Colonel Sanders log. Now, it might be, thankfully, it might make a good gag Christmas present. I got you the Colonel, and since you love the chicken all the time, here you go. Now, I would, if I'm going to burn the log, I would do it before January 1st, because that's when everybody gets on their big weight loss kick. Let's go back to the phones. Brian's bailing us out from Nampa here on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, Kevin. I want to talk to you about two things. First thing, shut it down. And no other reason that maybe 25% of the government needs to go do what the rest of us does. I've worked for the government. I've worked in the private sector. They need to go survive like the rest of us do. The government's gotten too big. If you believe that, shut it down. If they want to build the wall after that, great, but shut it down. I'm all for it. In fact, I think 25% isn't enough. And I've worked for the government quite a few different times, and those people need to go out in the real world and deal with it like people that work in the private sector have to. Got any questions on that one for me?
I do. I mean, would anybody miss 25% of the government shutting down?
How much are we in debt right now?
Trillion here, trillion there?
Yeah, like 20 trillion,
So,
and we don't want to raise taxes, so how are you going to pay that debt off? And how are you going to keep funding a big, huge government that has too much power? Shut it down. I go right ahead. Shut it down for a long time. And this kind of deals with, the crime and, the armored ambulance. My question, being a guy in law enforcement before, is who's not doing their job? If the ambulance has to be armored, somebody's dropping the ball. How has crime gotten away from the departments that bad? What's going on? Somebody needs to go and do an investigation. If there was a shooting to an ambulance, we should hear about it on the news, and we should hear about the guy being prosecuted, and if that's not happened, there's your problem. You don't need an armored ambulance. You need people to do their jobs, and that's the problem when government gets big. The second thing we need, and I'm going to slam on corporate government, or corporations and government, is concealed carry holders do less crime than police officers do. Now, I'll be honest, I essentially, when concealed carry came out, I didn't like it because it was used as a thing to keep blacks from having guns. But we'll put that aside and just say right now, today, It's 0.002% of concealed carry holders. That's how much crime they commit. That's less than police officers. So if you own a business that doesn't allow your employees that have a concealed carry permit, and I don't care if it's just the standard one or if you want to say they have to have an Idaho enhanced one, let them carry. This is why it's happening. And this goes back to what you were talking about earlier. We've had an influx of people from California that are from the left that believe, you know, I shouldn't have to take care of my own security. The government should do it for me. Well, the government spent too much money. There's not enough cops around. So you need to get your enhanced concealed carry, and you need to go to the corporations and say, allow the people that have proven that they are safer than cops to pack weapons and defend themselves in their community. That's what it goes back down to. It goes back to Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Real simple.
It's been reversed. Ask what your country can do for you, and even if it's not your country, come here illegally, get on the social services, and let all of us pay for you.
Yeah, and Kevin, I'm not against people coming to Idaho. My ancestors came to Idaho 5 generations ago. They first were in Utah, then they were in Virginia, okay? I'm not opposed to people coming here. If you are, I mean, Kevin, there's things that you believe that are liberal to me. There's things that Ronald Reagan did that are liberal to me. I get that, okay? Things change. You have to adapt. And whether or not we like it, you have to adapt. And, it's coming. Boise, at least, I don't know about eastern Idaho and northern Idaho, is going to become more and more like California. And if you don't like that, you've got two choices. You can get out there and do something about it, you can whine about it, or you can move. I'm not moving.
Well, no, you bring up a very valid point, but, not only do you have people coming in from California, Brian, but you have people, we talk about this at KIDOTalkRadio.com, you have people coming in from Portland, and they're transforming the place. And I go back to my favorite pet peeve is aggressive driving, the lack of consideration for others on the road. And this is not San Jose. This is not the Bay Area. And if you want to drive like that, then go back to that area. Let's have some civility for people that live here.
And I would say right now, if you're driving like that, and I'm a gun guy, okay, I believe everybody should have a gun if they're not a felon. But if you're driving like a felon, you shouldn't have a gun. If you can't drive your car and realize that car is more dangerous than a handgun or AR-15, a shotgun, a 50 cal. If you don't, I used to drive school bus when I was feeling better, Kevin. My kids would like, well, you need a Glock. I'm like, I don't need a Glock. I got a school bus. They were joking around about the scary clowns. I'm like, if somebody tries to hurt you guys, look at this tank I'm driving. And I was, half kidding about that, but people need to wake up. I don't even care if it's a motorcycle. If you're on a motorcycle and you're doing 80 down the freeway and you hit something, that's more powerful than an AR-15.
No, you're right, Brian, and thank you for the call. Let's go to anti-government Ryan from Bryan on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Kevin. Merry Christmas to all of your listeners.
You still working outside?
No, sir. I'm in a nice, cushy, warm, toasty office.
And how is that different from your years of working outside, sir?
Well, you know what? I actually, Kevin, when I did landscaping back in the day, it was mostly just a summer gig because it was in Minnesota, not here in Idaho. I saw the lawn boys out in our neighborhood yesterday trimming the bushes and stuff, and I was like, geez, they're out there standing in some snow and stuff in certain spots. It's crazy. But hey, Kevin, so here's my opinion on the wall. So if we follow Nancy Pelosi's logic about we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it, then by her same logic and her rationale, we have to build the wall to see what it can do. However, if you think about it, we actually do have evidence of what walls can do. Other countries have walls. Prisons have walls. Gated communities have walls. Federal government buildings have walls. So, the proof is so obvious, and it's so obvious what the Democrat, the lib strategy is, it's about votes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we all know this. I mean, at least if the Dems could just, own up to it, we'd all be better off.
Well, that's why they're the devious little liberals.
Well, I mean, they never can be honest, right? I mean, honesty, it's like Ben Carson said, I never have to remember anything because I just tell the truth and I don't have to remember a lie. Remember when he famously said that? It's a very, very good quote. It's a very important thing we all should live by. But I mean, the truth is Trump cares more about the safety of Pelosi's children and grandchildren and Schumer's children and grandchildren than those two care about their children and grandchildren because, Trump would want to protect their children, Schumer's children, from illegal immigrant rape, murder, theft, drug usage, all these kinds of things. I mean, it's just a shame. I mean, it's so obvious what we need in regards to illegal immigration. And if they want to make a deal, go ahead to get the wall done or whatever. But I mean, it's such a significant factor in curbing illegal immigration. I mean, nothing's 100% effective, right? So they always say, oh, there still can be people overstaying visas and all that kind of stuff, But I mean, it's a significant factor, a significant thing going in the right direction, and it's just so common sense. And it's just, it's just a shame that the libs just have such a repugnant business about them, Well,
let's go back to the wall. Is it time to shut it down to build it?
It's one of those deals where Trump's going to get blamed regardless of what he does. I mean, Trump has a phenomenal economy right now, and he's getting just crucified in the media. So he's going to be crucified either way. So even if he does shut down and gets blamed for it, he's going to be crucified in the media either way. So go for it. I mean, try to get some stuff done. I mean, that's the problem with people have with the government is they never get anything done. And I mean, unfortunately that's how it's going to be probably the next 2 years under Pelosi, her leadership in air quotes. Her leadership. My air quotes are going right now up in the air because it's just going to be one big circus for the next 2 years. But when you have backing of 98% of the media, it's easy to win. It's easy to win the intellectual argument with simpletons that can't think on their own. That's why we're so fortunate here in the great state of Idaho to have you, Kevin Miller, on the radio right here at 580 KIDO.
God bless you, anti-government Ryan. Take care.
Hey, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all your listeners. Stay safe out there. God bless everybody.
All right. Thank you. And now he's inside. That's even better. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, we are saying this. If you are working outside, please be careful. I admire your work ethic, your tenacity, whether you're building homes, delivering papers, driving, or, building the road or the big, the skyscraper. What is it? The walkway, the glass walkway over St. Luke's that is shut down, State Street this morning over by Broadway. Thank you. Very dangerous work, very cold, and we appreciate it. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Oh, blessed to be a part of your day. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I suppose we're in the midst of the cold and flu season. How many of us really got the flu shots? Remember, we hear this so much. You get a flu shot, and it's supposed to prevent you from getting the flu and all sorts of things. How many people are wondering whether or not the flu shot was worth it? And, again, it's great for the people that are supplying the flu shots, but does it really work? For some people it does. For some people it doesn't. Just a random thought this morning as we continue to make our way through a rather chilly day. By the way, getting back to this point about the wall, and really whether or not it's worth it. We've had several people calling in this morning saying, Kevin Miller, just shut it down. I'm just wondering, and that old story, if a tree falls in the forest or the woods and no one's there, does anybody hear it? If you would shut down the government, would anybody miss it? No disrespect to people that work for the government that are going, man, Kevin Miller, I just want to make sure I can pay my mortgage. I want to make sure that I can do this. I totally get that. And the sad part about it is that the devious little libs, the DLL, they're already conniving because that's what they do. They connive. And they're already thinking about how they can tear down the wall. Now, those of you that grew up in America or have watched the YouTube of what America used to be, understand what I'm saying about the beauty of people coming together from all creeds, from all cultures, and having a uniform, solid foundation that was taught in public schools, that was echoed and augmented through service public service, whether it was in the military or serving nonprofits or in the community. Today, we don't seem to have that. Today, we have the devious little libs conniving to tear down this wall. And the reason why they don't say tear it down altogether is because there is some faction within the Democratic Party that supports building a wall. And when you take a look at the president going, look, I'm going to shut it down. I don't care what you do, what you say. It's going to be that way. They're not used to that. They're not used to somebody saying, this is how it is. This is what we're going to do. And if you don't like it, so be it. I'll take the blame. We've never had that for a Republican, have we?
We need border security. I think we all agree that we need border security.
Yes,
is that
we
right?
do.
Good.
We do.
See? We get along.
Right. On the other hand,
not threaten to shut down the government because let me just finish. Because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something, Mr. President. You just say my way or we'll shut down the government.
And I think this is a winner for Donald Trump. Unfortunately, where's his backup? Well, he has backup with Sean Hannity and others in talk radio. But where's his backup? Where is the Trump political party?
Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am proud, and I'll tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border security.
But we believe you shouldn't shut it down.
Thank you very much, everybody.
And that is courage. I haven't seen anybody in the House or the Senate back him up. Have you? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller in the morning. Time to get you to work safely and on time.
I'm News Channel 7's Eric Garrett.
And we go back to the phones. Let's go to Rhonda in Ontario with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Rhonda.
Good morning, Kevin. I've loved your lineup today. Great guest.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, one of the things I've seen firsthand, and I've, been a long-time resident of this area, I do believe that just giving these services is the biggest magnet. And having the wall, I'm in support of, but I would really like the federal regulations to change where anchor baby or not, the parents should not be eligible for emergency cash, housing, SNAP, education, health care. I believe that is one of the biggest issues. So I would hope that President Trump would start making some changes on these regulations and how these freebies are handed out to people. And I care not what country an illegal resident is hailing from. I really take exception to the freebies. That's my point.
Well, I think if we were serious about this, we would just, we would have E-Verify, we would cut off all the benefits, and that would be it.
I agree.
Well, maybe somebody in power is listening.
I'll take the helm.
Well,
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Rhonda. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Rex in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Rex.
Good morning, Kevin. I just wanted to call in response to that last caller talking about immigration and how we spend so much on handouts for them. To me, it comes down to how we print money. And so in this country, we print money off of people's Social Security numbers. Well, when birth rates drop down to less than 2 per couple, we don't have a growing population. We have a sustaining population. So we have immigration, and especially illegal immigration, to keep our numbers increasing so that we can keep printing money. Otherwise, the whole economy is going to collapse. And so if you look at it from an economic standpoint, it's way cheaper to pay them and give them an incentive to come here, like food stamps and healthcare and blah, 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 so that they actually come here so that we can print off $21 million a person who comes here, because that's the math.
So if we're going to get rid of it, what are we going to do for our economy to keep it going? How are we going to keep printing money?
Good point, Rex. We'll bring it up next. Great point from Rex. Never heard that one before. Let's respond after Fox News.